Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of T Minus Podcast. Today we have Mark, but probably you will know him as YNWA. You might have seen that Liverpool CryptoPunk on Twitter here and there. How are you, Mark?
Yeah, good, thanks. Oh, sorry, here goes the voice. Great weekend. Was at the Liverpool Manchester City match on Saturday. So of course, any weekend where your team wins, you go into Monday morning feeling good. So what about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, all good here. First trophy of the season.
Well, it's a trophy when you win. Many would probably have said, "Oh, if you didn't win, oh, it was just a glorified friendly." So, but look, we'll take it.
Well, it's
As
good,
a
no?
strong, yeah, I think, look, last season ended on a bit of well, definitely ended on a down note, disappointment in Paris. So, I think it's a nice, refreshing way to kickstart the season, shows where we're at. Yeah, it's only one result and the season is very, very long, but yeah, it's nicer to go into the start of the season with that victory behind you. So
Fantastic.
hopefully it's
Yeah.
a good omen.
Yeah, it's a great start at least. Yeah. Well, the first, thank you for being here today. We met first time in at the CogX Festival in London, and I've been following you from day one when I played Sorare. I was like, who is this guy? He has a shit lot of players, and it's the best players here. And then I found out you were the first one to play, and also a founder. Then one of the team of Blackpool. So why don't you tell us a bit your story?
Yeah, sure. Well, no, it was great to meet you at that CogX festival in London. And I think, as you said, I mean, my story, I think, is quite a fortunate one. Um, I think I consider myself pretty late to the world of crypto. I only got involved in 2018 when there was this flood of ICOs that were hitting the market to try and capture the imagination. And yeah, I got sucked in by a couple of adverts and tested the water, my first ever crypto transactions and understanding how to use a wallet. And I came across a couple of games. One was called MLB Champions, which is these 3D AR bobbleheads that did have a game associated with them, but unfortunately, the company behind it, although they looked as though they were ahead of their time, they just petered out and just didn't listen to the community, and the game fizzled out. And they're now tokens on many people's wallets, which a lot of failed projects are, sadly. But the silver lining to that was, the people that I was meeting in the community there led me to Sorare. So Nicholas, the CEO and co-founder, I think at the time was looking at different Discord channels and communities and seeing if there was a potential audience for Sorare. I think he could see that I was a token Brit operating on a Discord channel, which was more for American users because of the time zone. And he approached me and just simply said, "Look, if we were to build something similar to this but football, would you be interested?" And I was like, "Well, of course, it's a no-brainer. Football is actually my sport as opposed to baseball." And so I said, "Yeah, what do you want to do?" And that just kick-started the start of a relationship, which culminated in the start of a community. And I helped to round up 30 beta testers, mainly people that had crypto knowledge back in early 2019. And then a couple of people that were new to crypto, but had very deep knowledge of fantasy football. And that's it. That's how Sorare was started. We had those very first auctions, and yeah, those cool looking cards from 2018-19, which we look back on now. You look in the marketplace, and there are very few of them because we're now flooded with limiteds and all of these, and 3 or 4 seasons worth of supply of cards. And yeah, I think over time these 2018-19 cards have started to stand out a little bit more, and I think it's starting to get a bit more of a collector appeal to them.
That's true. Like when I see those cars, like seems, I don't know, forever years ago. When you see this car, instead just what, 3 years actually. That
Well, I think when the new cards come out this season, so if we get when the Jupiler cards come out for this season, this will be the 5th season of Hans Van Ackens, for example. We are looking at him the
True.
other day, and so yeah, you've got different special editions. I know he's had a Player of the Month, Player of the Week, Team of the Year, some other special editions as well. But yeah, you can effectively, assuming they come out in the next few weeks, by September of this year, there will be 5 different seasons of the Jupiler League, and players like Hans Van Aken, who's been, a one club player since the beginning. There are, many different ways in which you can own a Club Bruges version of his player card.
Yeah, he's a legend for any Sorare players, I would say. I mean, but looking at what Sorare has done, it started with Jupiler League and very minor European season. Like you see now, it basically just have all the leagues except probably Premier League, but with the addition of many national teams, it kind of cover all the best players around the world, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Sorare is always a work in progress. We're never playing that completely polished or finished game. There's always things that we can improve. There's always things that, as I say, we want more. We want more as fans. Even today, the announcement this morning about the partnership with Transfermarkt, I think is very exciting. Anything we can do to have more information available within the native platform itself, rather than for us to have to keep going externally to find information, I think is exciting. But to answer your question, yeah, I mean, I think it's up to 270, 280 different clubs now under license, a mix of domestic club teams and national teams. And yes, Premier League's missing. I think some of the Ligue 1 is missing. Only 3 teams missing now from Serie A. The whole Bundesliga is in, the whole La Liga is in. And then we've got, Asia, America's covered as well. So I think it hopefully makes their position stronger when they're able to go and try and negotiate for any of the licenses that might still be missing. Yeah, you can also imagine that the negotiation might be stronger from the club's point of view as well. And they say, well, you're missing us, so you
Yeah.
need to pay us this. But yeah, I think they've broken the back. They're over the tipping point now where hopefully they can present themselves in such a way where that it's going to be very difficult for a competitor to come in. Certainly on the gaming side, I think the way that the NFT licenses are being sold, you can imagine certain competitors coming in and maybe having, let's say, collectibles only, or physical items maybe linked to collectibles. But in terms of where I think Nicola and Sorare want to be positioning themselves, is they want to have collectible cards that are linked to a fantasy game. They've proven that in the last couple of weeks with the launch of Sorare MLB. There's expectations that another sport will be dropped before the end of the year. So yeah, I think also the other sports helps on the licensing side as well, because if they can show themselves to be, spread out over all of the major sporting franchises, hopefully again it makes other franchises, I know NBA, NFL, NHL, if these type of sports want to enter into the world of NFTs as well, hopefully Sorare becomes the logical choice for them.
Yeah, there are many. And well, I started with fantasy football, but there are many fantasy sport games that are very, very strong. Especially, for example, in Italy, fantasy football is something that you always do. Like, there is no way that a kid or anyone, even like adults, don't do. It's a way for staying with your friends, being updated to the football, discuss it. So even other sport industry that might be stronger, for example, in the US, such as baseball, uh, NFL, NBA, and so on, if they come on Sorare, it's going to be definitely huge. And they have positioned already themselves, as you say, as basically a leader in the NFT collectible and sport industry. How was the feeling and like the feeling in the community in kind of day one? You were there, you were basically alone. Uh, what people were thinking, what people they're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's trying to remember. I think definitely excitement. I mean, back then in 2019, you couldn't take anything for granted. I think there's a lot of people that play the game now that, certainly wouldn't have taken the level of risk that we did back then. Having said that, the amounts of money that were involved back then were, by comparison, a lot smaller. So, we really were testing out buying cards for, a few pounds here and there. And a lot of the testers actually came from the game that I mentioned previously, MLB Champions. And so they were familiar with spending larger amounts of money there. So for some of the baseball collector players, it wouldn't be uncommon to spend 1, 2, 3 ETH when ETH was, pretty expensive at the time. So when we were coming on and just dabbling with, £5, £10 players, I don't think the money stood in the way. There was a collective belief that something definitely could happen. I mean, there's players in the community, Burglu, Mamba, uh, that have gone on and still, OGs of the platform, do very well each week in competitions. So they had a genuine interest for football. And I think, again, that a lot of people had been a bit battered and bruised at the time because of, scams and rug pulls. And it was tough to navigate your way around the industry. And so this actually had a feeling that Nicola, Adrian, the team, they really had a care about what was happening. They really had close communication with us as the testers. They really wanted to make sure they got things right. And you could tell that just from the interaction. So even though none of us really had a strong understanding of the Jupiler League, nice thing is we knew who West Ham were. But at that time it was still very fragmented because we didn't have many clubs and certainly players that we knew. But we as a community actually felt as though we had some influence and the ability to shape the early steps of progress within the game. And we could see quite clearly that we were being listened to. And that was really encouraging. So having found a game which was built around the sport that I love and my passion, to have some kind of influence and say and know that you're being listened to and see these small improvements happening on a week-to-week basis, it was really exciting. I mean, I think the community really was very, very close-knit. And I think we all reached out to friends and contacts that we knew, and we grew it from 30 to 100 and then 100 to 1,000. And it was a really nice journey in the early stages.
Yeah, the good things about Sorare is that it's always been kind of different from what you see any kind of games, like blockchain-based game. First, because the interface is very easy to understand, so you don't really need to know now there is even a credit card integration and everything. But even from the beginning, you didn't really have to understand what a wallet is, what a blockchain works. And you could actually start very quickly without having this, block and wall while you're trying to play a game. Like when I started playing, I think there were 3,000 players, and I believe like one of my first player was Zuba from Zenith. So that was I was researching and basically what to buy, what not to buy, and trying to understand what are the strong players, because as you mentioned at the beginning, there weren't many leagues available. So when I joined was when the Russian league was out. But I mean, a great point you made was listening to the community. That is what many games are doing, in part, like not extensively, but because it's understandable when you always listen to the community, there are pros and cons. Like, of course, you have a plan, like what you want to achieve as a gaming company, or in this case, like as a fantasy game company. Say we want to achieve this and that, and sometimes the community doesn't really understand what's going on. But with your point, like at the beginning, trying to understand what the players really care and what they, at the end, what they want to pay for. It's really important, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's clear. I want to make it clear that it wasn't just a case of the tail wagging the dog, and it wasn't just 30 beta testers saying, "Oh, do this, do that. We should have this, we should have that." I mean, Nicholas from day one has had a really, this is the roadmap. This is what we're going to build. We're going to build a sports entertainment giant, and that's the pathway that they decided. All we've done along the way is really just help bring to attention maybe things that they can want to think about from a user experience point of view, and just help them stay on that track, really. And as you said, there are gaming companies out there maybe that are too reliant on their community It's almost because they want to please their community so much, but perhaps they don't have that end target or vision, clear vision in mind. And sometimes that's a reason for failure as well, because they over rely on the community. The community tells them what they think they should be doing, and then they transact, and it doesn't work like that. So I think it's a relationship that works very well with a young community. It's difficult as you scale. The challenge is when you get to, you said you joined when there were 3,000 managers, which would have made the landscape would have been very different then. 5, 10, 20, 50,000, you're going to have lots of different voices, all with different motivations, some of which conflicting. And then it is difficult to keep everybody happy. But I think now, even though there are people saying, oh, I want to see this and then I want to see that, the game has already now got the foundations and the pillars in place. I think we will get to see things that we want, but the difference now is that we don't know what priority they're going to be coming out in. So things that you might want to see, for example, and things I might want to see, we hopefully will both see them, but we just don't know who's going to get to see what they want first.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time to create a real game, and having like many different people and personalities on board. That's for sure. One thing that I remember that everyone in the community was very vocal was about the role of Blackpool and other organization within Sorare. Do you want to maybe talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, for sure. In what capacity? I mean, I think that for me, when it was, if my maybe you share a little bit reason why I wanted to join Blackpool, is that Blackpool allowed me as an individual to diversify, the way in which I have invested in Web3 gaming. At the time, when was it? February 2021. So it was just over a year ago. I had, a very high percentage of my gaming assets all on Sorare. So, from a personal risk perspective, that was, perhaps too much. And joining a DAO, there were a lot of DAOs structuring at the time, built around different gaming guilds. Some were focused more on scholarships and, volume of scholars playing a particular game. Axie was very popular at the time. But Sorare offered something different because as an individual manager, I could still play, I could still bring a value and a benefit to the DAO while still benefiting from the other components within the DAO as well. But as we've seen over the last 12 to 18 months, nothing really has changed in the gaming landscape. Axie, has fallen by the wayside. Yeah, they're adding syncs in every 3 to 6 months to try and keep the community and their holdings alive. From a Blackpool perspective, I know that they've divested out of all of their Axie land in the last couple of months because we feel as though there are bigger and better opportunities in Web3 around the corner. Probably similar to how we saw CryptoKitties, a number of years ago. They trailblazed, they started the trend, they brought eyes and attention to the Web3 gaming world, NFTs, but they fizzled out. Maybe we're going to be wrong with Axie, and hopefully for them they go on to succeed. But we do feel that the next generation of games now will be hopefully a little bit more exciting to play, and again will attract people that want to come in and play games. For us, Axie served a very good purpose over the last 12 to 18 months, but we don't feel moving forward that will serve that same purpose. But back to the football side, yeah, I think Blackpool Blackpool are transparent in a way that other groups of friends and individuals are behind the game behind the scenes anyway. At the end of the day, we all play fiercely to compete one-on-one. There's no changes there at all. All I care about at the end of the week is seeing my name towards the top of the leaderboard. I can't take it for granted now I'm going to be in first place every week because the level of competition is incredible. But all I care about is getting to the very top. And with or without Blackpool, I think I would have achieved the same objective anyway. It's just that with Blackpool, I've got the ability to diversify my own Web3 holdings and be part of something bigger, which gives me access into other games, seed capital into other exciting projects, and takes the pressure off me just playing individually Sorare.
Yeah, is a good point. You can focus specifically on what you know the best. So you're very passionate and you know a lot about football. You might not be so interested, probably you are, but let's say with less degrees on other games and Web3. So it's good that an individual as yourself can, focus on what you love, while other people kind of focus on what they love. So I think it's a good move from yourself, and definitely what Blackpool is doing is, well, just kind of a reference point for many other DAOs and guilds in the space. That's for sure. Do you think that you were quickly mentioned before, as I was quickly mentioned, many people were kind of not complaining about, of course, like when you're the first person in a game, you have higher risk, and if the game doesn't fail in the long run, you become a sort of large holder of the game. And yeah, many people in Sorare probably complain that Blackpool hold probably a large majority of the assets in the game. But as you mentioned, probably like other people, individuals, can kind of group themselves without, let's say, not everyone knowing it, and still holding a large percentage of the players. Do you think overall, is it something that any player in a game should worry about, or just something that, I kind of have a sense now, but in the long run, doesn't really matter as more players and more assets get released in the games?
Yeah, look, I think the early advantage is still there, because I wouldn't obviously be able to compete across the different tournaments I can do had I not got in as early as I did. The funny thing for me is that when I have seen people be critical, they haven't even taken the time to look back in history to see how my account has evolved from day one. So again, for those that you may be broadcasting to, the cards that I've got on my account, okay, have been a constant work in progress, daily trading from 2019 for 3.5 years. You can ask my wife. I've been up auctions at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the morning, crazy times of day, fighting. Everybody fights for this 0.01 ETH, 0.2 ETH, whatever it happens to be. No matter where you are on the ladder, you fight to improve. And before I joined Blackpool, and after I joined Blackpool, everyone's, oh, Blackpool paying for this, Blackpool paying for that. Just, the nice thing is we've got Sorare data. We've got lots of ways in which you can verify. I think people feel as though maybe my position was given to me, whereas in reality, if you go back, you can see that every single transaction I've made, the amount of sales that I've made, the way in which you manage your ETH behind the scenes. A lot of people take for granted that just because you bought 1,000 ETH worth of cards and you sold 500 ETH worth of cards, oh, your portfolios cost you 500 ETH. It's not always the case. There's a lot of things you can do. This week, for example, on some ETH, was converted that to USDC at just over $1,750. Okay, we're now down at 1650. If ETH continues to go down, you can manage your assets in a very different way. Not everything you see is black and white. But in terms of answering your question about the early advantage, the returns in Sorare are diminishing, because you can see in the limited divisions, you can see in the rare divisions, you have to have 5 exceptional scores now to feature anywhere near the top of the leaderboard. So if you're playing it professionally, which some of us are, and you can see there are certain whales in Division 1 which are spending still crazy amounts of money in some people's eyes to get that extra bit of performance to improve one of their teams. Yeah, Division 1, Division 2, the rewards, I think, are still going to be there for the next season. But Division 3, Division 4, and the limited, these already, to me, have the feel as though they're more casual divisions. If you have, 2 or 3 great standout performances over the season, good luck, well done. You can win your prizes, and you've done well. But if you're thinking about investing to get into Division 5 or investing to get into Division 4, for me, I would turn around and say, why don't you look at Sorare MLB? It's less than a month old. You've got the first auctions which are out now. You've almost got that same feel to it that Sorare had originally, where there's only a small hardcore group of players that are there. There's an opportunity, if you want it, to try and feature at the top table, or try and feature in the top 50 or top 100. yes, even if you don't know baseball, if you had 10 ETH right now, where would you put it? Would you buy an expensive, maybe Euro Champs Division 3 team, Division 4 team? Or could you put 10 ETH into Sorare MLB and maybe look to have the start of something, even if there's an off season, let's take, from October to March. Come March next year, you could really build yourself a nice collection of baseball cards that could probably do better for you next year than competing on another year's worth of supply of football cards. I don't know. There's so many different ways in which you can play the game. I think people get focused on always looking above them. It's the only game in the world I've ever seen someone with $100 that can make $200 complain because someone's got $1,000 and is making $2,000, or someone's making 10,000 and making 20. There's always someone above you in the food chain. I think if you focus on what you can do yourself, and a lot of people, no matter when they started in Sorare, have always had the ability to turn $100 into 200 through listening to other people in the community. There's a lot of great content out there from content creators. There's many different ways in which you can generate a return. And I think that's the only sad thing for me over 3.5 years with Sorare, is that it's just turned into a financial simulator, an economic simulator, more than maybe in some people's eyes, a fantasy football game. And hopefully some of the future changes, maybe towards collectability of certain cards, more emphasis on the gaming, and maybe less emphasis on the financial side, will help them go out and attract that 1 millionth user, which I know that they're so desperate to attract. Because right now it still feels to me as though we're playing this financial simulator, which has a reference to football, rather than playing a fantasy football game, which you occasionally get a nice financial reward from.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely right. Like, the reason why everyone at the end play fantasy football is just to have fun. You put the money in. Like, maybe if you're lucky, if you got the right young player in your league that no one really wanted to get, and becomes a super a super football player, you get rewarded. You win the league, better. But that was not the point, wasn't it? Do you think?
No, and sorry, please.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No.
I wanted to say, do you think like Sorare MLB at the moment is attracting more user that used to play baseball, basically fantasy baseball games, or is more attracting the players that are at the moment on Sorare football?
I think only because I've participated in some auctions in the first couple of weeks, most of the names I see at competing at auction are familiar to me from the football side. And I think it's because, again, from a monetary point of view, people that are regularly winning prizes in football can subsidize their early auctions on MLB. So I think it is tougher for people that are new to Sorare and maybe have been waiting for baseball, and they come in and they see some of these early prices and I think, wow, I've got to compete with these guys on the football side. It's a double-edged sword, because it's positive because the people from the football have the conviction to say, I'm happy to pay half an ETH, 1 ETH, 2 ETH, 3 ETH, whatever it is for a particular card. And maybe from a baseball point of view, they're looking going, well, maybe these cards are worth this, or, these people are judging them and they've got the experience. But I don't think the people from the baseball side yet are acting with the same level of conviction that the people that have been playing Sorare football are. But I also don't think Sorare have really turned on the marketing tap yet to attract a new wave or generation of players to the game. So I think, again, anyone that's currently playing Sorare and is fortunate to know that this MLB even exists has a really good first to market opportunity, first to market advantage potentially, if they want it. Yes, the amount of auctions is a lot, and prices have come off from the first editions, which is to be expected. Yeah, I think it's quite an interesting dynamic, because the end of the season comes right as we're about to get the new football cards for the new season. So when Major League Baseball has their playoffs and then World Series, we're going to get into the really nice start of the European football season. So I think the way in which Sorare managers react is normally utility first. So I can understand that people are perhaps a little bit hesitant, and maybe many managers have thinking, okay, let me make sure that I get my football season off to a good start. Let me try and make sure that I'm getting consistent prizes, even if it's hitting thresholds, getting some tier 3, tier 2 cards regularly from placing, relatively high up the leaderboard. And then maybe in the off season, people are going, oh, maybe I'll have a look at MLB again in November, December, when the market's when the market's probably a little bit quieter, and then they can plan ahead for the start of the season. So maybe they treat it similar to the Asia market or the Americas market, which has that February, March through to November season, and then they'll start gathering and getting ready to prepare to play in 2023. So yeah, again, there's many different strategies. I think you can personally get better value for money right now in baseball, but I can understand why someone would go for the football side, because the utility for the European League pretty much starts this weekend and runs all the way through till May, and that's difficult to ignore.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I see at the end, like, Sorare is a knowledge game. You need to know who are the good players, no matter if they're playing football, baseball. So if you have an advantage on that, if you know what is a star player in your league, even if it's like a small league, if you know who is the star player in baseball, you should go for it. The reason is you might have an advantage over other people that you would be surprised the knowledge differences between someone that follow a league, a team regularly, compared to someone that instead just watch it on a Sunday here and there. It's completely different. Do you think what's kind of the next step, do you think, for Sorare? Like, how are they planning to attract new users?
Good question. I think one thing we've seen with La Liga is the advertising around the stadium, around the pitches. So there's good quality, branding coverage, Sorare on every electronic advert around the pitch. I would expect that to be similar in baseball. I would expect them to have, regular branding and adverts throughout the games as well. I know from, playing the MLB games in the past, there's probably collaborations they can do on the MLB.com website, where they can, again, look to gain, traffic and brand awareness. But look, that's not my area of expertise. All I hope is that they do spend and speculate to, get a wider audience of people playing the game, and I'm sure they will. I can't imagine they've built this just to keep it internally. I'm sure they've got the ability to turn the tap on, and yeah, can't wait for that to happen. Or maybe we should get the players that we want first and then ask them to put the marketing on afterwards.
That would be better, no? Yeah, no, but the US for sure, that I believe they are the main one focusing on baseball, is such a huge market. So when the time is ready, I'm sure that Soraya will do a great job attracting new user in. Wanted to go more broader on kind of experiencing games you had, and what do you see the industry moving forward? Have you follow any other games that you're particularly interested on?
A few, I have to say, that's one of the the advantages that I like to rely on in Blackpool, is that we've got a dedicated, research laboratory esports team that we're always being pitched by game developers, new companies, even in Paris in the blockchain week last week. We had what we called a garage, where we invited people to come and pitch us and present their ideas and opportunities. So, in amongst the collaborators, we've got a wealth of knowledge and understanding of specific games. I tend to get to see them when they're a little bit beyond that initial idea stage. So, if we dismiss it, then I never get to hear of it anyway. But if it becomes something which looks attractive, then we introduce it to the wider group, and then we maybe put it through its paces if there's a demo, if there's something to look at, or we examine the pitch deck and we go back with, some more questions. But I think the ones that are starting to emerge now are more along the esports line. So we've seen Immortal, the chess game. I'm not sure if you've seen this one. which has just started to sell its first few pieces. It's attracting a lot of grandmasters to play the game. It's chess, but with NFTs, and these NFTs have different quests associated with them. So it's no two games of chess are the same. So whilst you're of course trying to beat your opponents, your NFTs have got different quests that are linked to them. Like your king might be, we bought a king, for example, last week on the auction, and the owner of this king, if they win in under 40 moves, there's a bonus. You've got, one of the quests might be you've got to take the first piece, or you've got to finish the game without losing a particular piece. So when you're playing someone one-to-one, there are many ways in which you can win the game. It's not just about beating your opponents. You've got different quests, and if you fulfill those quests, they will result in winning in-game tokens, which again is another way which you can yield. So yeah, this one for us is really exciting. So we're discussing with grandmasters and potential esports managers at the moment whether or not they would like to come represent. We can acquire pieces on the market, provide them with these pieces, and yeah, it's a great opportunity to play to win. And I think the main answer to your question would be, we see these games. Anything for us that has this play to earn tag, we're probably going to be quite skeptical at the moment, because we feel that was how games were 1 to 2 years ago, and anyone trying to replicate that now, I think, is a little bit behind the curve. Play to earn. People don't just get paid now just to turn up and play a game. Oh, look, here's a new game. Log in, have some tokens, have this. The long-term sustainability of the economy is just never going to last. I think people need to realize now that you need to be the very best at what you play to actually make a living from it. So, in some games that might mean you've got to be top 5, top 10. In some games, maybe top 10%. I don't know whether the cutoff is, but I know that it's not, everybody just turns up and gets a reward for playing, because there's no way that an economy can survive if that's going to happen. So, the chess game is one. I think there's we're getting a lot deeper into games like Big Time, Guild of Guardians, Commie, Avagotchi. But again, there's still nothing on the scale of Sorare. Sorare is still so far ahead in terms of maturity and daily average users. There's a proven market there, which I think is comfort for people that are wanting to join in. They can look at places like Crypto Slam and they can see all the projects listed, and there are very few which have more than 4,000 daily average users. We know of all these PFP avatar projects, and doesn't take a lot of money, a lot of time to just wash a few avatars from wallet to wallet to make the trading volume look perhaps better than it is. But when you really look at how many games and people that are playing games, there's still probably not more than half a dozen games which are as successful in their environment and community as something like Sorare.
That's right. Back to your point, play to earn, as we know it, probably 1 year ago, is not sustainable. At the end, when someone is making money, someone has to pay for it. And I agree with you that many of the games are not ready to be played for fun. And if a game is not playing for fun, then the money is coming just from the next person investing in the game, and at the end, someone will be there holding the bag. So, but the example that you just made about the chess game that I didn't know of, it's a very, very interesting. I see many, like the way value can be created in games, if it's you create value around the game, not in the game itself. So the same way, for example, football doesn't create any value itself. It creates value when people goes to see the match, when you buy the T-shirt of your favorite football player, when they sell the rights of transmitting the match on TV, etc. So there is a lot of way to kind of monetize a game outside from the traditional play to earn space, and this example is a very fantastic one, specifically in the way that you mentioned it's not anymore about just beating your opponent, but beating your opponent doing an extra step. So, as you say, like completing a quest, etc. Do you see any other for example, MOBA games, tower defense and so on, have been very popular. For example, like League of Legends, Dota. Do you think any games can come in and kind of make a proper game that can steal some of the users from them?
Yeah, I do. I don't know which one specifically, but I can say that we are approached again by Web2 companies with successful mobile apps. And the nice thing with that is that they already have the fundamentals of their economy in place. You know, a Web2 mobile game can turn on its advertising and generate a revenue without having to sell any NFTs. So if they can continue to build a good game that attracts users to want to spend time, not just a game you play on the train for 5 minutes and then give up after a week. If it's a game that you're constantly dedicated to building your progress within the game, and okay, maybe you have to watch a few adverts along the way, but that's you grow to accept that. Then these companies, to me, have more chance of success to break into the Web3 than somebody that's just got a good idea, because a Web2 company with existing foundations can approach companies like ours and say, look, we want your help to transition from Web2 to Web3. We can provide advisory, we can provide all sorts of technical help to make that happen. And all we're doing is we're adding a layer on top of a game which already exists. And if that game already has 1 million, 2 million downloads, and even if those people are only spending 99 cents to maybe advance their way in the game a little bit quicker, well, you've already got a built-in audience there that you can sell your NFTs to, or however you incorporate Web3 into the game itself. And I think there's more chance of that happening because you only need 40, 50, 60% of your user base to drop a dollar, here, maybe drop a dollar there, rather than having to have an amazing idea where you have to sell these NFTs for thousands of dollars to cover your runway and to cover your burn rates. So yeah, I do think that we will see Web2 companies with successful existing models make that step up to Web3. And the other reason I feel that way is that when you speak to venture capitalists that are being asked to give these companies money to fulfill their their goals and their visions, is that venture capital companies now are being stricter in terms of who they are happy to back, who are they happy to get behind. And if you can't demonstrate that you've got let's say 18 months worth of burn rate or runway in front of you, then at the moment I think raising capital is very, very difficult, especially in what many would say is a bear market at the moment. So again, the other advantage that Web2 companies have is if they've got an existing income stream, they're less of a risk to venture capital companies, because they can say, okay, great, well, we can work with you because you've already got 1-2 million users or downloads. You've already got the ability to turn on the advertising tap, so you can actually bring in a revenue. Therefore, we can support that. If I just come to a VC with an amazing idea and a great concept, it's got to be pretty bloody good, or it's got to have some pretty unique IP associated with it. And I've got to show that I've got some financial resources to, take myself forward before asking them for their money to help build my dream, basically. So yeah, I think if that helps answer your question, I do think there's space for Web2. It's let's see who emerges first.
Yeah, especially when, as you mentioned, during a bear market, we see who are the good games that are still here, and who instead is good games, or in general any company that are still here, and who instead was just here for the money. There is definitely, I see a lot of games coming up that they already have a product, so it's not just a vision anymore. Is they already have a clear product ready for them. Just they need to, of course, fix it here and there. And they have a crazy advantage compared to someone that in mind knows everything about crypto, Web3, they know the technology and everything, but maybe they don't know how to make a great games. And it takes a lot of expertise in the industry. And it just is not something that, it takes one day or 1 month to really understand, especially how to build an economy around it.
100%. I think that's the biggest part, is that the balance between creating a Web3 game that caters for players on very, very different budgets, but all compete within the same environment. Sorare again is an example. There's this constant tug of war. You've got people competing at the Division 1, Division 2 level, all the way down to Division 5. And it must be so challenging to create a set of rules where everybody can coexist. We've already had that. We've had 6 to 12 months of people debating, is the pendulum, for Division 2, does it stop progression from Division 3, stepping up to Division 2? And again, building any type of game, I can imagine is super challenging for the game designers to get those game loops and hooks to make sure that it's exciting and encourages progression at every single level. And the nice thing with most Web 2 games, or successful Web 2 games, is they already have that in place. So it hopefully it should be just a case of how can they layer in that NFT or Web3 add-on, whereas building a game from scratch, trying to attract people that are happy to spend $10 to $100 versus people that are spending tens of thousands of dollars, and having them compete on an equal playing field is, I think it's very, very challenging.
Fantastic. Well, I just want to thank you very, very much for spending time today to have a quick chat with me. Is there any kind of suggestion or things that you have learned along the way that you want to share?
No, well, look, first of all, thank you. I mean, it's an exciting project that you're working on. I was so great to meet in person. I did want to offer you and your viewers something which is from today. I know that I hinted that we had our own Blackpool series of NFTs that we literally launched about an hour before coming onto this stream today. And one of them, which I think could be very dear to your heart, is one which we call Il Capitano, which is, we've created a series of a football team, basically, of world football stars. And we've chosen 11 iconic players that are now retired. And we've given them a card, and we've created a card which depicts them with their nationality, their number, position, and a piece of iconography that's synonymous with them. And so maybe again after today, I'll donate something for yourself that you can give as a giveaway to your users. But I think, just to answer your question, look, this market is still very, very young. We're in its infancy, and just manage your expectations, because it's not like going to buy a polished game from an established gaming company and plugging it into your console and then having the best experience in the world ever. If you really are that level of gamer, then perhaps Web3 gaming is still a little bit too early for you. Web3 gaming is about building, it's about collaborating, it's about learning, helping. And I think if you're interested in helping to influence certain journeys, then start to become active in communities and make yourself known. All the game developers that I know are very, very open to, frank and honest conversations about ways in which they can improve. People do really want to build Web3 games that are as exciting and as in demand as Web2 games. We're not there yet. So as long as you understand that and you're happy with that, then enjoy the journey, because in 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, I think this place could be very, very exciting. And what you learn now in these early stages, I think puts you in a really strong position before the mass market joins. If you can say you've got a 2 or 3 year head start on the people that join in 2 or 3 years from now, I think that's where you will start to see the real benefit. But the challenge is, as we know, people want things now. People in this world, perhaps struggle to be patient. 1 week in crypto is like 6 months in real life. We all want to see bigger things, better things, and we want to see them yesterday. So yeah, I guess overall, manage expectations, come into things with an open mind, and be mindful of the risk out there as well. It's not just a case of, oh great, I've seen something nice, let me get involved in this. Try and look at things from both perspectives, from the game developer's perspective. Speak to other friends that you've got, speak to other community members that you trust. Looking at yourself, you'd be someone that I would very happy to come to talk to and say, look, Marco, I've seen this, we're close to investing. What do you think? value other people's opinions as well. There really is no right or wrong. But yeah, just manage your expectations, because otherwise I think you could end up being disappointed if you expect too much.
That's right. Yeah, and build the community for yourself, and yeah, find good friend along the journey. That's probably that's probably right. Where people can find you if they want to get in touch with you?
Easiest place for me, I tend to spend more time on Twitter, or at least follow Twitter, for good or for bad. I know it's a bit of a funky market, but yeah, I'm blockchain YNWA on Twitter, so that's the easiest place for me. I'm on Discord in both the Sorare channels as well, but probably a little bit less on Discord these days, because from Blackpool I'm on Telegram a lot, and that's where we do our work. So Discord to chill out, Twitter most of the day, and Telegram for work.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time again. So let's be in touch again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Good luck to Milan. Good luck to Milan this season as well, and look after Divock Origi for us.
He was a great add. He was a great add to the team, I believe.
I'm looking forward to seeing his progress. I hope he does well for you.
Fantastic. Crazy. Thank you very much again, Mark. Have a great day. I'll see you soon.
Likewise, Marco. Cheers.
Bye bye.